Hey guys, this is NezZy back again with another Destiny 6 video. So today I want to touch on a few things. I'm gonna try and go over the most useful 3 stars in the game as quickly as I can. And then we are going to be talking about doing the substat reroll. Not talking, but just looking at if it's better to have attack or if it's better to have crit damage. I don't support the substat reroll system, but for the purposes of this video, it is the easiest way to show you guys with actual numbers what is more useful. And then we are going to be I'm going to be explaining what I'm looking for when you guys send in requests to join the guild Destiny Void. So without further ado, let's get into the Codex. Quick disclaimer about these units, okay? These units are obviously not OP. OP units in the game are obviously 5 stars and some 4 stars. They're probably only going to have one useful skill, but they're going to be useful and reliable in the fact that they are easy to skill up because they are 3-star units and you can find their secret dungeons so very easily. Also, they're probably only going to have one useful purpose. They're probably only going to be useful in one particular situation or scenario or map. And it's definitely not going to be worth 6-starring them. Probably just, be left at 5 stars at level 50. So I have 10 units. Some factions have more than the others. And this is, in my opinion, and I had some comments on YouTube. So let's get straight into it. First of all, we have Vixx, who, as you guys can probably guess, is useful for healing and sustain. So his first skill at max level, because they're so easy to max skill them, I'm just going to look at their max level. Okay, that's fair, right? Recover 5% of your team HP, then 13% of your own HP for 5 times. So that's in total about, 65% of your own HP's own HP's recovery. And then you have a 40% chance to remove 2 debuffs from your allies. Then we have Origin Shield, which at max level is super good because it actually gives you a shield of 150% of your own HP for 17 seconds. This guy, I would use him in Hell mode, not Nightmare mode, but Hell mode. If you guys have the damage but not the sustain, he can definitely kick in and beat your sustain until you guys get that Eve or that Carlota, or who else can heal? Yona, not Rona. This is not Vainglory. Yona or Elke. Leader skill buff duration, not really useful unless you have someone like Carlota or Adonis in your team. And striker position, just don't put him in your striker position. Then we have Otomo, So with Vixx, what it was that his second skill was the more useful one, right? The 150% shield. With Otomo, similarly, his skill 2 doesn't really do much. Just increases your status resistance. However, or does it decrease status resistance? Yeah, it decreases the opponent's status resistance. But his more useful thing is Eraser, his skill 1, which at max level can apply the 40% chance to shock your targets for 12 seconds. With Precision Crest, this can go up to 50%, and then with some leader skill, it might go up to 55%. With some additional substats, might even take it to 60%. Basically, where to use him? Well, I would use him in Giants, both Imperial and Death Hinge, because they are susceptible to shock debuffs. If you guys are having trouble landing a shock debuff, then this is the guy you go for. Of course, he's a 3-star unit, but again, the reason why I bring my Gunter into my Giants 10 team or my Giants 8 team is not because of his crit rate increase. It is simply to land the shock debuff. So maybe in one of my future videos I will use him instead with my Rock Jun, but he can definitely be useful to just land that shock debuff because it's so critical, and that the fact that it lasts for 12 whole seconds is actually pretty darn good. Next up, we have Veet. So Veet right here at max skill will increase your crit rate by 20% for 15 seconds and crit damage by 35% for 15 seconds. If you guys have Tyler in your striker lead, that crit rate is obviously going to be about 27%, which is pretty darn good for a 3-star. And his skill 2 is actually going to be able to recover your HP when it does a critical hit onto a opponent. This is a stacking skill, and Yes, it's a inline, so in all honesty, I'm not sure how wide this line is. We can check really quick. But his more useful role here is for critical rate. So if you guys have somebody, yeah, that's not a very big line. But if you guys have someone in arena that applies certain debuffs or has certain things that happen when you crit, then he can definitely kick in for your critical rate, for your crit rate buffer. If you guys already have a good concentration set, meaning that you guys already have 30%, and then he can just give you that much needed 20% more to put you guys over the 50% margin. Okay, so these are the units for SILVAS. Let's go on to MEDINA. Now, of course, these units, guys, they are going to be kind of underwhelming, but hey, these are 3-star units, and people just want to see a video be made on 3-star units. And some of these guys are actually pretty useful. For example, Drake here from the Medina Kingdom. At max skill, he can actually ignore defense by 70% on a critical hit, and then remove a buff by ×2. And then his second skill is actually a stacking skill with a 100% chance to remove the target's shield. So this is probably a twice. This is pretty good. He can actually be a pretty reliable stripper for arena. I'm actually surprised people don't use him more. Of course, he does have shitty stats, but in my opinion, he's actually more reliable than the Shaolin, because what people normally do with the Shaolin is that you want to be able to strip the shield. You don't really care about buffs. It's more about the shields that people want to strip. So when you guys want to strip the shields, she only has one skill that can do that. He also has only one skill, Wrecking Spear, but you can use it twice as a stacking skill, meaning that you guys can basically use it twice. Personally, I mean, for all these units, it's up to you guys how you want to orb them or crest them. For Veet from the SILVAS faction, I just remembered we didn't really cover him. I would just go Vitality or Concentration with Grit Crest. For Drake over here, I'd probably go Bravery or Concentration because he does ignore defense on critical hits, so probably Concentration and Grit Crest. Next up, we have Elizabeth. So for people that are having trouble in Destro landing your burns, Elizabeth can be pretty darn useful. Both of her skills actually apply burn, and at max skill, her second skill can actually apply burn for 12 seconds, and it does, this is a break skill. Yeah, this is a break skill, and it also has a cooldown of 28 seconds, which is pretty darn low. And then her first skill is a break skill again for 2 seconds, for 2 break points. So overall, she has 3 break points, which is, again, pretty useful for the Destro boss. And her first skill also has a chance to burn the target for 12 seconds. How to orb her? Well, I would orb her with either Vitality or Bravery or Concentration with Grit Crest. Give her possibly a title to maximize, to give her more status activation, just so she can land the burn. Now, both of these over here, this one says 40%, this says 45%. So I'm not sure if this is that applies to the launch and the burn, and this applies to the knockback and the burn, but I would guess so. She has breaks, she has burns, she can actually be pretty useful in Destro. We're not going to look at her leader skill because obviously that's not why we're even looking at these units. Last but not the least, for Medina faction, we have Ignis. Now, I have talked about Ignis. There was an entire week of my videos where he was just the hype for Guild Conquest. First skill, Flame Breath, does burning. Burning, again, like we've talked about, is one of the bleed or one of the dot effects that only does damage based on your attack. Bleed is the only dot effect that does damage based on the opponent's current HP. But that's not what makes Ignis so great. What makes him so great is his second skill, which at max has a 30-second cooldown, and it has a 50% chance to increase the target's current debuff duration by 12 entire seconds. This is a stacking skill. So with just a little bit of precision crest, and even with a weak status activation buffer such as Tian Jin, this skill is always going to land this debuff, because how I have him is with precision, so that's 60% right there. With Tian Jin, that's 25%. And then with the Tian Jin leader, I think that's 5% again. So that's a total of what? 55, 85% in total. So he is pretty much MVP for one of my, he's actually PvP. He's actually MVP for 2 of my bleed teams because I actually built 2 Ignises. And I can show you guys that later on. Let's go up to INUA. I hope we're going through these pretty quick. I really don't want to take up much time. INUA faction, I only found one unit that's pretty useful here, and that was Raven. And I think Drake is actually better than her, because what Raven does is she removes a buff over here, actually removes 2 buffs, and applies blinding, so pretty useful in arena in the sense that she can remove a buff. And then she also has 100% chance to strip a target shield. So when it comes to stripping shields, I would say Drake, but when it comes to actually applying some more utility, I would say Raven, because she has the blinding. And it's pretty good, 35%. With Precision Crest, that's 45%, and with your, with some status activation substats, or a title skill, or some leader skill, that will go over the 50% margin. Then let's go on to the Jin faction, where we actually have 2 units that are pretty useful in my opinion. Again, this is all in my opinion, okay? First of all, obviously, is Tian Jin for Guild Conquest. He has both his skills are actually useful. His first skill has a 38-second cooldown and increases attack by 25%, which is great because all of your dots in Conquest, except for Bleed, scale of attack. So this will make them deal more damage over time, or more damage per tick. Then, of course, status activation chance increased by 30%. Whoops. Before, when I did the calculation for Ignis, I thought it was a status activation chance by 25%. This means that Ignis can actually have a 90% chance to increase, or 90% chance to apply apply his second skill debuff duration increase. But anyway, getting back to Tian Jin, I would say this is pretty darn useful. He's like a budget Helga, and then his second skill has a doesn't actually lose cooldown. It stays at 30 seconds cooldown, but for every hit, all right, there's no criteria that needs to be met. It doesn't need to be a critical hit. Doesn't need to be any kind of hit. Just needs to be a normal hit. For every hit that you do, you will decrease skill cooldowns for all of your allies or random allies on random skills by 5 seconds per hit, which is pretty good. I use him a lot in Conquest to actually reset and be able to do one more round of bleeds and dots before he dies, or before we die. He also has a 50% chance to increase the damage taken by the opponent. Again, not very important. I would not orb him on Precision, just for that damage increase debuff. I would actually just go on I would actually just go on Grit to get more cooldown, and my Tianjin is actually built on Vitality for more sustain. Obviously, you guys can build yours towards Bravery or Concentration to deal towards a more damage dealer route. Let me drink some water here, guys. I'm sorry about this. Throat's getting dry. Okay, so first of all, we have Windmill Spin right here with a causing bleed upon a critical hit for 9 seconds. So again, in my opinion, I think it's more reliable to have your units crit and then apply a debuff than for them to rely on status activation, because with status activation, you need status activation to go against the opponent's status resistance. So I've had times where I visited the people that I was going to get up against with. They had a Shaolin who did her strip thing twice, right? Now, 2 things happened there. 1, the strip thing for the Scissor Shaolin says 100% strip. And then it also already had, I'm losing my words here, guys, sorry. 100% chance to strip, and when I visited the person actually had 50% status activation. That's no joke. No, wait, it wasn't 50, it was 35%. Yeah, 50% would have been insane. That's 35% status activation. And he still stripped to fail both times on my Adonis with a combined team resistance of 15%. So you really have to go against RNG. For bleeding over here, you guys can apply this to the Conquest boss and just deal massive damage with bleeds, because bleed scales off of the opponent's current HP. It's also on a critical hit, so it's way more reliable if you guys have somebody as a crit rate striker. Skill 2, not really useful. Does have a breakpoint, goes with 2 breakpoints, so yeah, sure, why the hell not. But first skill is definitely more useful here. Just bring him in with anybody, even like Veet, a budget crit rate buffer. Make sure your Wu Ying has 30% crit rate. Yeah, make sure they have 30% crit rate, and then with the Veet and Striker to lead, with maybe someone like Tyler, it can go up to 50% or even over 50%. And then let's go into TRAGAR, where we only have one unit here, and that is Mustang. So what Mustang does with his first skill is apply shock. So again, he can be pretty darn useful in Giant's Imperial or Giant's Death Henge. That's a 45% chance to shock the opponent for 12 seconds, and it is a stacking skill. So you guys can probably use this twice or maybe even thrice. Has a cooldown of 25 seconds, which is pretty darn low. So with precision, that can go up to 55%, with substats of 5%, or with a title or a leader skill that can go over 50%. And then his skill 2 actually is going to increase your attack, which is pretty darn good. Increase your movement speed and attack speed for 30 seconds. So this is just like a nice bonus that he has with his shock. And it can also remove debuffs by 40% chance to remove 2 debuffs on his allies. So overall, I would say he's pretty darn good. If all of these stats were like enhanced a little bit, I would say he would definitely be a 4-star unit, if not a 5-star unit. But the stats and the degree to which he buffs himself is pretty limited, so hence he's a 3-star unit. So anyway, these were all the 3-star units that I think are actually useful. So let me just answer one question here. I just remembered. What was it? Oh, good lord. Cannot find... Okay, I cannot find your name, so I'm super sorry. But somebody asked me if it was possible to get to do arena. Let me get Benito here first, okay? Let's just try to get his... I'm sorry, guys. I'm so sorry. I'm all over the place. It's just finals ended, so I just feel so empty. Do you guys ever feel that? So right now he's on attack, right? So those were his stats, if you guys just saw. That right there. So let's hop into the run over here. Crit damage of 186. Let's hop into the run right here into concentration. And then we can talk about me answering this person's question. So what the person asked me was if it was possible to run a arena team with Rock Shaolin, Carlota, and Rock Jun. So I think it is possible, but what you need to have is have your Rock Shaolin with a lot of cooldown, so that when she comes onto the fold, she already has a bunch of her skills are already able or ready to be used. Then you probably would want somebody to like a leader, or just a lot of status activation on your Rock Shaolin on her own. And then I would say possibly have your Jun's second skill and your Carlota's first skill maxed out, just to deal more damage, just to deal more damage, and to no, not to deal more damage, to get your cooldowns off faster, so that you can actually keep up the CC train with your Rock Shaolin. So if you have all that, then I would believe that it's possible. Also run your Rock Shaolin leader, because she has a status activation leader. So let's get onto the boss over here, guys. Look at the critical hits, okay? Look at how hard these critical hits hit them, or hit him. 21,000, 15,000, 15,000, 15,000, 15,000, 15,000, 15,000 on crits, right? That's how much he's dealing for. So 15,000 was how hard I could hit him. Alright. So let me just do the substat reroll on one of his orbs, and then we will be right back, guys. Alright, guys, so we are back. We now have 12% critical damage on this orb instead of 6% attack. So basically what happened was we lost 6% attack, but we gained 12% critical damage. Max rolls of both. So let's just see if it actually does apply more damage. So as if you guys remember, you guys have the you guys can go back. You guys have the video, right? So just go back and look at my stats. But I think we had over 900 attack. Now we only have 879. And our 186 critical damage is now 198 critical damage. So basically, lost attack, gained crit damage. So does it really do more damage? I just want to find that out. Kind of want to show you guys as well. So I'm just bringing in Adonis here for the shields. I don't want to bring in an entire team because then it's kind of hard to tell who is doing which hit, like whose hit belongs to who. And just to minimize confusion, I'm only bringing 2 units with, of course, striker lead for the crit rate. So already I think we can say that we're doing more damage, but it's going to look a lot cleaner when we reach the boss. So let's just wait for that. Okay, this guy right here, this Ying or whatever that guy was, the guy that we took down last, he's the guy that I was talking about who can replace Otomo for shock debuffs if you guys have him. He's in the Jin faction. His name's like Sima Ying or something, or Yima Singh, something like that. Okay, so let's see how much damage we're dealing. 16,000. Previously we were dealing 15,000, right? 15,000 something. Now we're dealing 16,000. So it actually does. You actually do more damage with the more critical damage you have. I mean, this isn't news if you guys are coming in from Summoner's War, right? Because there, every time you guys have Lucian or anybody, it's like the more critical damage you have, the more damage you deal. And here, you guys can actually get 12% critical damage, whereas you guys can only get 6% attack. So even if you guys are losing the base damage, which is gained from the attack, you guys are gaining the crit damage, which you guys can gain from critical damage. However, the most important substat here is critical rate, which is why I don't think even if they ever release this map over here, I mean they will, but even when they do release this map over here, unless they give concentration orbs a buff, or the substats that you guys can get from critical rate a buff, instead of like 1 or 2, making them like 2 or 4, unless they do that, I don't think I will ever touch punishment orbs, simply because, yes, I know, okay, Gunter has 30% critical rate, increase, no, actually 40%, and then, what's that girl's name? Oh, what's her name? She's in the Arcana, can give you a 50% critical rate buff, right? Yes, I know, but when I think about a nuker, I'm thinking about a self-sustaining nuker in the fact that they can nuke on their own. Because the moment I bring in someone to buff crit rate into nightmare mode, that's one spot that I could have had open for somebody else. Just how I feel about it. So when I think about nukers, I'm talking about solo or self-sustaining nukers. What else was I going to talk about? I was going to talk about guild. So, people that apply to the guild, please make sure that you guys are 3. Why did I say 3? Mid-game or late game. That's the kind of people that I'm personally looking for. People that can already solo, or not solo, but auto Nightmare and auto Giants 8 as well. I will visit you even if you guys tell me that you guys can. I will, even if you guys tell me that you guys can auto all these stages. I mean, Giants 8, I can't auto it, alright? I can't auto it, but what I do have is a speed team that takes it out in 6 seconds. So that's basically like autoing it. So if you guys have either an auto team or a speed team, that's the same thing for me. I will visit you guys, make sure you have a wide array of units to begin with. Not all 5 stars, okay, just a wide array to begin with. and looking at if you guys have 4-star orbs or not, 3 and 4-star crests or not, with pretty good substats, to know that you guys have been doing this long enough. So I think that's it. Yep, that is it. If you guys enjoyed this video, please go ahead and subscribe to my channel. If you guys want to see further content, please go ahead and subscribe to my channel. It helps keep me motivated. If you guys have any questions at all, game related, let me know. Ask me anything, all right? Even if I can't give you guys a definite answer, I can probably help you and send you on a path towards self-enlightenment. Anything else I want to say? The next 2 videos, or the next 3 videos, are actually going to be most useful 3 stars, most useful 5 stars, and then broken units in the game that I think need fixing. So if you guys have any units that fit these descriptions, okay, useful 4 stars, useful 5 stars, or broken units in the game, go ahead and tell me in the comment section down below. I'll go ahead and look at these units, and if I think they're viable as well, I will go ahead and give you guys a shout out in my next video. So that is it. Yeah. Yep, that is it. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. See you in the next one. And until the next one, guys, Neon out.